As you arrive into your meditative shape, notice if there's any gentle movements you'd like to offer to your body, rolling the shoulders, stretching the neck, noticing what the body needs to be at ease, returning to intentional breathing, breathing in and out through the nostrils if that feels supportive. And let the breath be deeper and longer, as though you're expanding your lungs' capacity to take in air. And with the out breath, releasing mental busyness, releasing bodily tension. Letting your awareness stay all the way to the end of the out breath, lingering at the bottom of the out breath. And as you continue to breathe more deeply and fully, notice the breath energy throughout the body. Notice the sound of the breath in the back of the throat and coming in and out of the nostrils. Feeling the coolness of the in-breath and the warmth of the out-breath. Using an anchor that is neutral and supportive, letting your attention rest. This way, anytime the mind wanders, you can be aware that the mind has wandered off away from the anchor, and then to bring yourself back, make that U-turn back. Generating interest, generating curiosity, towards your object of meditation, whether this is the breath, the contact points in the body, sounds, letting your attention stay as best as you can resting, resting in that place within, observing the coming and going of sensations, thoughts, and noticing the feeling tone shifting and changing in each moment, not holding on to anything, simply allowing, touching the experience with awareness, and then letting go and come back to home base. Soften, soothing, staying to let your awareness drop into the subtle aspects of the experience of now, the subtle breath, subtle sensations, tuning in to the subtlety of this moment. We'll end our meditation with a chant on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts, they will be the heirs. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts, they will be the heirs. arising from meditation, carrying any goodness that you've cultivated into this transition, transitioning from formal practice to the informal ways that we can continue to cultivate mindfulness and maintain our sense of well-being, being at ease, being aware, being intentional about how we move, how we pay attention. Part of our practice is about developing trust in what we come to see about the Dharma, about the truth of how things really are. We've been swimming in a lot of delusion or forgetfulness, and we act from that place. We speak from that place. And so our practice brings us back to seeing things clearly, replenishing our view, our perception, clearing our heart and mind, purifying our heart. So that we can rest in what is true, what we can really trust in and rely on. So in this chant on universal well-being, the last paragraph is challenging and almost like inviting us into trusting in that law, the law of karma. Do you trust that this is true? Do you trust that this is actually what happens? And it questions our belief. Because when we don't believe this to be true, we still act and speak and think from a place of another narrative. And at times can make such a mess or create more suffering for us and others. And so the chant reminds us of this universal truth, and we continue to question our own beliefs. So we're not asked to believe in anything blindly, but it's the invitation is to question your belief and the belief that has you carry out certain deeds. And where am I in this? Do I really feel this way? Do I really think like this? Maybe I do think like this, but maybe I don't act in accordance to this I conceptually believe is true or that it makes sense, but my actions isn't quite believing in that. So this last paragraph of the chant goes like this. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts, they will be the heirs. Do you trust this law? That actions, wholesome, skillful actions, will lead to wholesome results. Unwholesome, harmful actions will lead to unwholesome, harmful results. And it comes from one's intention. If one's intention is wholesome and skillful, or unwholesome and harmful, then a person will be the heir, the receiver of whatever intention and quality of intention one has. So it goes back to, do we trust this? Do we trust and fully see this? Because when this is true for us, we easily, naturally rest in well being. We understand that there's no need to fight for or push against or punish or teach someone a lesson. We understand that when someone causes harm, there is repercussion for them, and we feel compassion. We understand that when we have caused harm, we want to quickly express remorse and repent and make amends, recognizing that this will affect our well being. And so, really understanding the law of karma, intention leads to action, leads to results. When we understand this and trust in this, and we really see that it is true, then we can verify it. Well being, this commitment to maintain well being in ourselves, becomes a really high priority. And that means that kind of well being also means we are quick to make amends, to say sorry, where we might have caused harm, even 1%. Take responsibility for things. And we also stop punishing others. We don't want to add to the suffering anymore because we know that any way we add to the suffering, we too receive that suffering. We become the heir of that suffering. So we don't need to be the judge of karma. Karma is the natural law that will occur. We don't need to, I was going to say, protests about karma because the natural law will respond in accordingly. And I say this and laugh because today I'm actually going to go to the protests and rooted in this intention of banding together, uplifting this sense of community and care, meeting, meeting my community, meeting our community, and showing support to what matters. Coming together and remembering our wholeness, our commitment towards peace and nonviolence, and with that, carry out the action of nonviolence and peace and community. And then to observe what results come out of that. And so everything we do, we must examine our intention. This is a mindfulness practice to be mindful of one's intention and then to be mindful of how one carries out that intention. And then to stay mindful of the results, the coming together, falling apart, the way things culminate, the way our intention curates the experience that we have. into being aware. We come out of not knowing, not knowing where we have been unskillful, where we have caused harm. And this is how we continue to increase the wholesome results that we can have and reduce the unwholesome results. We're constantly, continuously examining, where have I caused harm? Where might have I caused harm? Where might have I produced suffering? And we're looking in this way, examining with curiosity and with compassionate eyes because we care. Not to shame ourselves, not to make ourselves wrong or judge our actions, but more because we care about well being. We care about our well being. We care about the well being of others, knowing that their well being affects our well being, and our well being affects their well being. And so, through my thoughts, action, and speech, where might I have caused harm? And we work to reduce, to make amends, to end as best as we can, end the suffering of others that is directly tied to our unclear intention or maybe our unskillful, messy actions or words. So this is advanced training, really is, to practice mindfulness in this way. And this is really what the practice of mindfulness is all about when on the Noble Eightfold Path we talk about right mindfulness. It's mindfulness that produces wholesome results, mindfulness that upholds and maintains wholesomeness, goodness, mindfulness that supports well being and peace and goodness. So it calls us to continue to scan for where we might have caused harm. So we look back and then in the present moment, continue to refine and review our thoughts, our intention before moving into action, speech. And then also to continue to feel and speak and take action from the place of a good heart, an open heart, a caring heart, and letting that lead us. And the results by this law will be wholesome, will be skillful, will benefit the many. So again, the chant invites us to ask ourselves, how much of this do you actually trust? And when you fully trust and believe this to be true, you're always looking at aligning yourself to this abiding law, the spiritual law of how things work, how karma pervades all things. And so mindfulness is this act of remembering, recalling. Mm. Thanks, Mike. I see your comment in the chat. I'm going to really try to be intentional and take actions that align with the type of person I want to be today. Mm. Mm. Beautiful. Mm. Yeah. And being intentional and taking actions that also align with the results we want to have. The results. And then who we become as that person based on those actions, based on the results, based on what the results are. There's a reminds me of a model. Be, do, and have. So oftentimes the way we live is we want to do certain things so that we can have certain things, and then we can finally be that. And this is a model and landmark, the work that I've spent a number of years training in. So do, have, and then I can finally be. So if I do all these things, then I can finally have all this that I want, and then I can finally be that successful person. So that's one example. And so this particular paradigm shift is to start with being. Be. We start by being a certain way, and we already have certain qualities within us. We already have everything we need to carry this out. And then from there, it's the actions. Starting with being. And this is what, in all of the works we talk about all of these qualities being kind and loving, being patient, being diligent, being skillful. Yes. Cause, like this cause and effect, actions and results. Mm. Yeah. How much choice we actually have here when we are aware, when we remember this universal law, and we come from that place of intentionality. Mm. Hi, Rob.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, this was really good. I think I was thinking about skillfulness and um, and attachment. And when we don't examine our intentions, I think, oh, but I meant well. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that can that actually creates more problems because it sort of shows, well, maybe you meant well, but how much did you really examine that intention? Um, I also, I think intention can be sticky also. It can be, it can be sticky like attachment. You can be attached to your intentions. I think part of skillfulness is um, examining your intention, but then not being too attached to the positive or the negative results because you may not have the, well, I think the purity is in your intention. And if you're attached to that, then you're attached to the result. And then you're sort of stuck in some way. But anyway, that, that was kind of most of what I was reflecting on.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. Mhm. Mhm. Katie, I see your hands up. Mhm. Mhm.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Um, I just, Rob made me think about that too, that I know I'm kind of thinking a lot about past conflicts I've had and how I've thought my intention was, you know, I thought it was to cause no harm, but when I look deeper, I think I can see that it was more of an attachment to wanting things to be a certain way. Like, you know, so I wasn't allowing um, the other person to have their feelings too, in a way. Um, that's where I think I can see that it gets very sticky and confusing. Um, yeah, because when the other person is causing harm, I have to work that much harder to not add to the harm, you know, back and reflecting it back. Um, and I think that's a concern about, even the protest today. Some people might add to the harm by being violent. I don't know, hopefully not, but um, there's going to be a lot of people, and we can't control what everyone's doing.
Yeah.
And the thing about the karma is that gets confusing to me is I mean, bad things still happen to good people, right? So is the karma, it's not necessarily about like nothing bad will happen to you, but you will just suffer less. You, yeah, is that
Ye-
right?
Yes. Yes. You will suffer less. Yes, because you're not producing any more or mitigating that in the present moment so that your future, may be of less suffering, whether it's future in this life or the next life. And the way that, you know, in growing up in the Vietnamese Buddhist culture, and this is a view, a way of seeing when bad things happen to good people, how even monks and nuns view this. It's a very humbling view. Um, but I find that it's really serving. So when bad things happen to good people, like let's say it has something bad happen, and all I've been doing is just a lot of wholesome things. The way to view this is, I'm burning through the negative karma from what I have produced in the past. I'm paying it off now. I'm paying it off. So rather than why me, I've been doing good, why is are bad things still happening to me? Because karma is not in a short span of this time. It has stretched far beyond this moment, not just this life. It stretches far beyond. That is the belief about karma, is that it was long here before this life. It has followed our consciousness. It is a part, it is one with, this is our karmic consciousness that continues, that has carried into this physical uh, existence and has manifested in this way. And it will continue into the future. And through the practice of being aware of this law, we shorten the the negative ripple effect outward into our future and into next lives. And enlightenment is at the point in which a person completes all of their karma. They've paid it all off. And there is no longer any negative karma left to pay off. They paid off their debt, basically. So when even growing up, when a really good person, like a really skillful prestige monk who has only done good in his life, when he dies abruptly, like there was a monk who had passed away in the Vietnamese community who was really well known for his prolific work. And he was in his cabin during the rains retreat. And there was a gas leak in one of the propane, and it blew up the whole cabin that he was in. And it was just a shock to the whole community, the whole Vietnamese Buddhist community. And the way we interpret this is there was some karma in his past life that he had to meet. And this is too how monastics view this, is like when something tragic happens to them, it's paying off the debt from the past. So it takes on a more expansive view than this, narrow short view of now. We're looking at it further out into the continuum of this karmic consciousness that we have beyond this life, beyond our memory. And then the other part that was brought up around our intention, I feel like even there is a practice of I want to say curating our intention. we want to look at if the intention is coming from our ego or from a deeper place within the heart, right? Because there's the mundane way of I have this intention, it's to do this, it's to, there's so much it's wrapped up in so much external things, right? That's the ego's intention. And then there's the intention that rests in a much deeper place. And I heard, like Katie, you were saying, the intention to cause no harm. Now that's a spiritual, deeply rooted, heartful intention. So that's the kind of intention that in this text, in the sutra, that's what it's referring to. Is that kind of wholehearted, you know, intention. So not the physical, not the kind of intention that's in the physical plane, but on the spiritual plane. That will produce the kind of spiritual well-being, the wholeness, the goodness, because all the other kinds of intention that are still rooted in material, physical, mm, it will produce some results, but it doesn't produce this peace and happiness. They still continue to rest and circulate around material, physical, gaining, acquiring, it's like almost like I'm thinking about this as it could contain when I think about it from me too, it can contain an ounce of manipulation, you know, do this to get this, to have this, right? That kind of intention, which is still rooted in desire, wants, that kind of attachment in the material and in the physical realm. He, she should do this, and then they should do that. They should be like this, right? So what we're getting at is that more heartful intention, deeply rooted in this place of clarity, of care. It's rooted in care. It's rooted in this higher commitment of peace and well-being and of goodness. Like Carla, yeah, glad you were both talking about it. Speech rooted in care. Yes. Hi, Alicia. I see your hands up. Yeah.
Good morning. I laid back down because this little creature
Mhm.
beckoned me back. So this talk about intention is so interesting to me because sometimes I can't even suss out what my intention is and if it's wholesome or if it's coming from another place. And it's so interesting that you are talking about this morning because over the last few days, my husband and I have had this experience with our very close couple that's, I'm good friends with the wife, he's good friends with the husband. And we found out that something had happened between them, but the husband has sworn her to secrecy about the details. And um, yet I'm trying to help her through her grief. And my husband, is helping his friend who's sort of resistant. And I find myself like thinking about who I want to have in my life or just not wanting to be judgmental, but if I don't know the details of what happened, I feel really unsettled about the friendship. And the only thing that she will share is that it was of such a catastrophic nature that there's, no path forward but divorce, and she's proceeding in that way. And she just keeps saying, trust me, if you knew, you would know there is no other choice. And I simply said, well, is he safe around my children? And she paused and she was like, yes, I think he's safe. And I was like, so then moving forward, I feel crushed. And I feel bad saying this because, you know, of course she's feeling grief, but this was a man that I really looked up to and thought was kind of the ultimate man, father, husband. Like, I really had him on a pedestal, that he was as good as it can be. And my husband and I are both, shocked. And so in that sort of situation, how do you determine, what is your intention, and how you would support people? And yet also there's a part of me that's like, if I don't know what has been going on, and I guess it's been going on for years, then I don't know how comfortable I feel, or even my husband feels, well, for him continuing that friendship. But does that make sense? And it's like, what is my intention? I mean, I guess I want to protect my family and my children, and I also want to be supportive, but it's hard when the potential darkness that lies beneath the surface. What am I involved in?
Yeah. I think it's good to see, first of all, to see the mind wanting to decide, the mind wanting to figure things out, come up with decisions. So first it's important to see mind and see what the mind is wrapped up in. Because it's hard to arrive at this intention that is inside of the heart when the mind it's taking over. Right. So it's important to first see that the mind that is wrapped up in the details, wanting to know, needing to decide. And we first have to settle that mind, the restlessness that's there. And and that's also to see the nature of mind, how it gets into things. And then what I would invite you to consider practicing is to come back to what is going on in the heart amidst all of this. What is the heart feeling? Right? How is the heart bounded up, clench, tightening, like so tuning into what the heart is feeling around this, the tenderness that the heart feels and cares towards this couple, friends of yours and husband. The care, the concern that the heart has. Just stay there and feel that for a while. Let that give rise to more love, more compassion, more empathy, more care, feeling the suffering of the couple, feeling what they each are experiencing, and then feeling what you're feeling around. Oh my gosh, my mind, the belief of this, but now what's really here is this, and how does the heart cope with that? How does the heart feel that? And it's important to stay there for a while to feel that within us, that care. Because that care isn't going to get caught in those little details, right? Those little details of the formula that produces certain results, right? So we have to take a step back and almost like see the equation, see the whole formula of how things come together, see it beyond just the particularities. I guess what I'm saying is to come back and care for how you're relating to this experience. What does it bring up for you internally, within yourself? Not so much about them, but let this give rise to more empathy, more sensitivity, more concern, like the heart's concern, which is care. And feel that care, and then even connect to your husband from that place, that there's this part of the two of you that deeply cares for this couple, wishing them well, wishing for them to find their way out. I mean, the way out of suffering, not the way out of anything else, but just the suffering, the lack of clarity, the way they're navigating this in the dark, the way that they're trying to find their way out, right? The way they're trying to navigate a solution. And just that's the intention right there. The intention of wishing for them to have clarity, wishing for them to find peace in how they navigate this, wishing for them to be able to see this through, whatever that means, however that looks like on the physical plane. But this is the intention that is wishing for their spiritual well-being, essentially. So whether they stay together or not, that's just on the surface. Beneath that is how they ride this. Could this lead them to awaken to something deeper within, to grow spiritually based upon this experience? And they can grow together or grow spiritually while apart. But that the recognition is that everyone has their own journey, and all these incidents and mishap and rupture, they are all opportunities for awakening. Awakening to love, awakening to what's been missing. But this creates a break. This creates a break that calls for, human beings, for us to all feel it into ourselves, where we can mend internally, where we need to question how we've been looking at things, our beliefs, our perception that has been rooted in delusion. Like when we are caught in delusion, things that happen creates shock in us because we've lived in a certain view, a certain belief. And so the shock is this, it's like it's shaking us at our core to awaken to how things really are. Right? Like even like I'll just use that example you share, just using that as an example, okay? It's like that part of you that put this man on a pedestal, like, wow, he is so great. And then the shock because he's not that way anymore. And then that right there is inviting you into seeing this is what human beings do. This is what happens. Even the most perfect, well put together person can fall prey to one bad action, one moment where they slip. But does say that they are they're a bad person? No, it's just one action leads to a certain result, leads to some results. One unwholesome thought, one unskillful thought leads to one unskillful action, or however many, leads to a mess, creates a mess. And so that's there for all of us. No one is excluded from this law. No one is protected from this. No one is protected from this law. No one is above this law. And that's the unfortunate but truthful part about this. And so even there, feel into that, just the humility of how this law works. Right? For me, it humbled me to see this happen in the lives of people I really care about and see their life fall apart, see things come crashing down. It's just like, wow, this is how it happens. This is the working of karma. It's not, we don't use the word karma as like a way to, punish anyone. No, but it's seeing it so with so much vulnerability and humility. And when we see it from that way, we let it touch us to our core. We let it soften us. We let it open up our heart even more to care and to pray and to wish well for others who are on this journey. To your dear friends, gosh, I really hope they can navigate through this. I really hope that they take care of themselves spiritually and that this will be an opportunity for them to grow spiritually, to see things clearly, to practice forgiveness, because what else do we have? If we keep punishing each other and blaming and holding each other wrong, who suffers? We do, right? They will suffer if they navigate this with a hardened shell, fighting, making each other wrong, or resting in that place of shame or blame. But if they can move through this with humility, recognizing that we all make mistakes, that we all sometimes just that one mistake, that one action rooted in greed, anger, and delusion. In other words, hatred, craving, right? Attachments, and delusional view, delusional way of thinking. So these poisons just that one small action could have such a far-reaching impact. So going back to your intentions, this intention that you have to let it come really close with the heart, feeling it deep down inside. That part of you that cares so deeply, that feels their pain as your own, that sees the unfolding of things and the mess and feels deeply for that. And And when we are there in that place, actions and speech come across in this way. Come across as wanting to care. Friend, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm here to care for you, to help nourish your spirit, your heart, as you navigate it in this, the way that you know how, in the way that you think is best. But I'm here to care for you spiritually, emotionally. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for each one of you as an individual and for what it means for you both as a couple, together or apart. But also, that's the trust, trusting in our friend's journey, that they have their own journey they have to navigate. We have to let go of what we'd like to see them have, what we'd like to see for them, and how we think it should be for them, to allow for what is ahead in their journey, in their life. And that's hard because we also have certain ideologies we need to let go of. And that's what we can examine, is what is it that we are attached to in our worldly intention? And then what is it that we can recall and really touch into in our spiritual intention that is rooted in seeing things from the spiritual lens?
You know, as you're talking about this, it's it's so profound, the shift that my brain just did. And I realized this woman is she's so strong. Like I think she's known about this since January, and I'm new to the scene on it, and she just really knows exactly the direction she's going, and she is on a similar path as we all are. And so I think she will be fine. But when I'm thinking about it as you're talking, I think what deeply disturbs me is the fear that this might bleed into my own marriage. Like my head started going, what is it that is really gets me about this? Because she'll actually be okay. I don't know how he will be, but I think the depth of it is worrying that like my husband will be spoiled or something, like it will, if he continues this friendship, that it will somehow bleed into him, like, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it, because my husband is a strong man, it's not like someone else's choices and behaviors. And this has been habitual, apparently going on for years. Um, but yeah, I think that's really the base of what is so disturbing to me, aside from seeing my friend have to go through this transition with her family, um and also having empathy for the man that he did this to himself and his family. But I think it's actually more selfish than that. I think there's a kind of more self-centered, egotistical part of this for me
It's
that
really,
is worried. Yeah, that's worried. Like,
yeah,
what happens if my husband goes out on a guy weekend or something with this guy?
yeah,
What if he encourages my husband to do something like that? Which I really need to pull back from, because that's questioning my own husband's self-control, and he will have to make the decision for himself on whether or not he is alone with this guy in that sort of setting and wants to be perceived that way. So
yeah.
thank you for going down that, because it just hit me that I think that's at the core of what is so disturbing to not knowing, because I don't know what the thing is that my husband might turn into himself. I don't even know what it is, you know?
Yeah. And this is,
So, yeah.
I want to just, you know, acknowledge you for the deep looking and the, ability to reflect this back to yourself and see this. Because, yes, really essentially, anything and everything that creates so much restlessness in us, it really comes back to our own vulnerability. It's our own vulnerability around what happens. There's a self there, right? The self that is concerned for self. So as we go through the layers, we see where there's concern and love for other, and then there's that underneath that, at the core, is concern for self, right? How would this disrupt my life or what I have or the inner circle of what's there for me and miss what's going on out there? And we had such clarity to be able to see that. So then that's where you want to spend time also, looking deeply, feeling, sensing, and touching that vulnerability. That's the inner work. That's the inner work. Mhm. That's where the suffering out there provokes and pokes at the suffering that's in here. And when we can get to the root of that and see where is it provoking, poking at the suffering in here, this is where we look deeply and work on, healing ourselves, uprooting ourselves, spending time sitting with ourselves, walking through the recognition of our suffering. And our insecurity, insecurity that lives deep within us. And we work to make peace and take care of that insecurity, that vulnerability. Then this is the journey of our life, is to take care of our vulnerability. And through this training, we're developing that strength where our vulnerability doesn't become something that break us down, but our vulnerability begins to allow us to live and be our most authentic self. It no longer masks us trying to fix things out there, try to make things happen out there to secure what is insecure in here. But it's the recognition of my own insecurity, my own vulnerability that I'm going to let this touch and strengthen within me. And to let that vulnerability see the light. And let that vulnerability allow us to step more fully into our most tender, um, true self. We all seen that. We all have, I'm sure you all seen to some degree, maybe from a distance or close up, someone who's so vulnerable and honest. It's just really raw about what's going on for them inside, being able to express that. So we're practicing vulnerability even in speaking. And that helps us to stay close to our inner experience. But a lot of it, it's more internal. It's more for us to work through inside of ourselves. I think that's, to me, that's most skillful, to work through that inside, and then we can rest in tenderness when we speak. Colonel is requesting, can you share this on Slack? Yes, yes, Colonel, I can upload it and share it. And Rob says, I am touched by your caring and vulnerable sharing, Lisha, and Trina's caring insights and looking at this complexity in different ways. And most tender injuries really do follow me through life. What a wonderful realization. Face all those fears that have been tucked away, unaddressed. Mhm. Yes, come close to it, intimate with it. Turn towards it, towards the vulnerability, the injuries, the wounds. Yeah, talk to them, spend time with them, and let the people in our lives know. Have those heart-to-heart talks about our vulnerability. Because we all have this, but we all walk around as if we don't, as if we're perfectly healed or, perfectly okay. Nothing bothers us. Everything is fine. All is all right. I have it all together. But it's these heart-to-heart talks expressing our vulnerability, our injuries. We let our loved one in to our inner world. And this is where deep connections happen, is when we allow each other in. And especially for those of us who are on this path, it begins with us. It begins with you. We set the example for that. And then the people around you will become more courageous. You'll see that there's permission for them to be and share their most vulnerable, self. Or at least it allows them to kind of drop their guards a little bit. Can we share a vulnerability as a way to move through the world authentically, openly, and intimately? Thank you all for your presence here today. And it really, the question, the reflections, and these inquiries. Thank you for your vulnerability and your honesty and your practice. That's so inspiring. You're so welcome. May you all abide in well-being. May you return to the heart's deepest intention. And may you live and speak and act from that place, letting go of worldly attachment and coming back to the spiritual aspiration that is of goodness for all. May you be well, dear friends. Love to you all. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care. What a start to the day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be with you in spirit at the protests. I'm having to go to work.
Well, we'll be with you in spirit at work too.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Ready for takeoff to infinity and beyond.